It's exactly 34 minutes past the hour of 7, and we do thank you for being a part of Sunrise at Sea, just in time for the Twitter Jabs, where we are looking at freedom of expression. And of course, joining me at the center of this conversation, I'm no expert when it comes to such issues, but I have someone who will be definitely giving us insight in regard to this particular conversation, is none other than Mr. Michael Aboneka, and he is the partner, he's a partner Thomas and Michael advocate, as well as a director of Enviro Green Trust. Good morning, Michael, and thank you for joining us and accepting to be a part of the conversation on Sunrise at Sea.
Thank you. Good morning, Shivan. I am happy to be here again. Like I said, that I'll return. So here we are.
Okay. Yeah. Well, now the objective, if you're wondering why we're actually having this conversation this morning, the objective of this conversation is to sort of have a legal interpretation of the proposed amendment in the Computer Misuse Act. Of course, that was by Kampala Central Division MP Mohammed Sereko. So, Michael, my first question that I would probably ask is, according to the law, what is freedom of expression?
Freedom of expression is to the effect that it's guaranteed under Article 29, that one, you have freedom to express your views, be it written, be it spoken. You have a freedom of speech. There's something called, which people Ugandalize to speak day, but I think it's a speech day. And nowadays I don't see it. And there's value in that you have a freedom to speech. People have been laughing at us and saying, are you sure in Uganda you have freedom of speech? You may have freedom of speech, but do you have freedom after speech? After you've spoken, you still have freedom. Now, the fundamentals of freedom of expression and speech are quite interesting. And Shivan, I just want to say that yesterday was the World Day of Social Justice. Okay. And it is celebrated every 20th of February. And the idea is that let us celebrate and remember that we have to respect freedoms and rights like the ones we are discussing about. So this one actually comes in handy. So the right to offend and the right to freedom is just about based on two ideas. One, that individuals are able to exchange, just like we are doing. If I have no freedom of speech, if it's not protected, we won't have this exchange. And that we are supposed to learn from each other. Okay. The second one is that individuals have the ability to express themselves and what they believe in. If I believe, you remember the debates, mother is better than fire or better than father, and then pupils would debate that, and split hairs over that. And it's okay, because, in a society where you need to promote civility, you must have a society that is able to debate, is able to talk, and that's why you see there be measures. People have the measures, even when they say they were banned, I don't know for what reasons, but people need to be allowed. And you see, expressing yourself is a way of, it's a therapy. In psychology, there is what we call the talk therapy. You have the environmental therapy, which I do a lot as the Enviro Green Trust. We do trees and all that kind of stuff. So the thing is that everyone should be allowed. Now, the freedom of expression has an extension, which I am always arguing and discussing, the right to dissent. There can never be one right person. Okay. Even when you're right, someone's going to say, but I have a minority view. Even the parliament itself, as the committees, there is always what they call the minority report. As much as you say this, but I think that this to me, this doesn't augur well. The issues of the age limit. I keep giving this example. I think the MPs sold hot air. You can't come and say that my constituents have said, all of them, that Tujikwateko. But there are those who said no. Ideally, you're supposed to come and say 70% of my constituents said yes, and 30% said no. And that's how it should be. So the voicing out, media use a lot of the vox pops. Yes. The voice. Advocates are voice. The voicing out is supposed to be good for a country. So whether you're voicing out through speech day, whether you're using a computer, or whether you're on the streets, your freedom of expression should be protected. However, it's not a fundamental, it's not an absolute right. We have about 4 absolute rights that you cannot even derogate from: slavery, and then freedom from torture, a right to habeas corpus, and a right to fair hearing. Under Article 44, those cannot be derogated. But freedom of association is not, of expression is not absolute. Now, there is something called the freedom to offend, the right to offend.
Yes, the right to offend.
And I think people think this is a new concept. You see, what you believe in, the moment you start questioning and raising questions about things that people have seen for long. For example, how many people can put up a hand when a preacher is teaching in their church and say, wait a minute.
You have quoted wrongly.
I don't understand that. You'll be excommunicated. How many churches in this country can allow someone to put up a hand and ask a question? I know only one, and that's why I go. That I am allowed to put up my question and now they say, okay, so that we save time, people can ask questions after the end of the service. So I put up my hand, I'm like, I didn't understand this. I don't think Jesus said this. You see, that's how you promote debate. Now, in India, there was, I think, what's her name? I remember, yes, the actress called Priya Varia.
Yes.
You remember that scandal when she winked during the movie, and then she was charged. And then the Supreme Court actually vindicated her and said, no, she has a right to do that. If you feel you're offended, that is up to you to that level. But her wink, she had a right to express herself through a wink. Now, how you are offended about that? So actually the Supreme Court ordered that the penal code, the section that makes this an offense, is repealed. And Uganda borrows a lot of criminal law from India. So I'm looking forward to that. So by and large, the things about, the speaking out is that you have to question and criticize the deep-rooted issues of society. Now, if a government, if a clan doesn't allow women to speak out on issues of inheritance, the whole country was in discussion because the late professor had the girl as a heir, and everyone was up in arms. I'm like, can't we discuss potholes or whatever? It is okay for a girl to take over me. It's Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, so it's okay to have these conversations. She has blood like any other person. So if it's a country, if it's a family, by the way, where each time the father comes in the home, people are scattering under the beds, there's a problem.
There's an underlying issue.
There's an underlying issue. And some of it is culture. You can't speak when elders are speaking. That's fine, I'll keep quiet, but I'll say, however, I have a question. Our education system doesn't teach us much about asking the why. And some of us who have come out to ask the why questions, we are wiseacres, we are out of this world, we've been spoiled by education, but we went to schools here. When I ask the church that your wedding guidelines are unconstitutional, don't say the devil has attacked the church. Listen to me. Don't pray for me to die. You get what I mean?
Don't call it a generation.
Yeah, don't call it a generation problem. Listen. The other day, last week, I wrote an article on torture, and I put it emphatically in my article that if this article rubs you the wrong way, don't beat me up. Write your response.
Write back to me and let me know.
We have people, they are very quick at writing on Twitter, but tell them pen it down in 200 words. They can't. They can't. So how are we going to protect and promote civil debate in this country if we can't protect the right to express yourself through mouth, through a computer, and also by writing and expression in the media?
You talked about an incident that happened in India, but quite interesting. I was actually reading up on different countries, looking at, offensive communication and all. And in Japan, it is actually a criminal offense when you point at someone. You see what we do when you point, you can actually be taken to court and sued. However, Michael, in your expertise, looking at the reason as to why actually Honorable Muhammad Nsereko is putting forward this particular motion is because of the fact that he's trying to curtail cyber harassment, but also he's thinking in a way it will actually hold people accountable for the kind of things that they post on social media, say, or even table out. So in this regard, How would you consider that now this communication has actually been offensive? And who has the right to say that now this communication that you have posted is actually offensive?
That's very true. And you see, the principle of legislation is not just about punishment. Morality does not drive law. Not everything that is immoral should be legislated. Just because you don't eat pork, you don't ask that let there be a law to stop people from eating pork in my neighborhood.
I see where you're heading to.
So the point is, and with all honesty, Honorable Nsereko is a colleague, he's a learned friend. And I'll meet him and tell him these things. What is the mischief that the amendment is trying to cure? You see, you don't just legislate. And any law must show the following characteristics. That one, it is fairly balanced between the individual rights and the community good. It should be applicable to all. We have many leaders who are calling people pigs. We have many political heads who are calling people all sorts of names. And the people just clap, the same legislators. So, is that a double standard? That the Fountain of Honor would call people pigs and all sorts of names, and the same people who create the laws are clapping hands? And when one person takes it to Twitter to express themselves, is clobbered, beaten. Social media is just like the streets in Kampala. Do you know how many times the people driving cars quarrel with the border guys? People spend a lot of energies quarreling with the border people. That is also a street. The abuses and exchanges that people have on a daily basis, are we going to go into their private life and start actually to regulate? Mm-hmm. The prisons are already full. What is the mischief? Mischief means that without this law, heavens are breaking loose. The skies are falling on us. I've not seen that. Now, I've looked at the amendment, and there are specific things which appeal to me. One is talking about unauthorized access. The Computer Misuse Act already provides for that. But let me tell you something that they're trying to introduce. It talks about when you share these things of sharing a link, sharing a video, sharing these bloggers. Yeah? They first tell you to share like for 30 minutes before they start talking whatever they are talking. But could it be that this law is coming as a personal vendetta? Could it be that beyond Honorable Nsereko, there are people who are agitated? By the way, we only have about 3 million social media users in Uganda. So the 47 million Ugandans are going about their work. Mm-hmm. And the whole country is here struggling, debating, probably wasting resources to deal with the 3 million. While we don't have, beds in hospitals. I think for me it's an issue of prioritization. It is okay that the freedom of expression is not absolute, but we have enough law. I don't see any mischief. The only thing I see is throughout all the 4 amendments is seeking, the commonest factor there is the same sanction of 14 years imprisonment, of 10 years imprisonment, and 14 million Ugandan shillings for all. Yes. And the interesting bit is they are introducing an offense for people who want to stand for office, that if you offend the act, if you commit an offense within the act, you can't stand for office for 10 years. Yes. Where is this headed? Council,
there is something that you highlighted earlier on, and I see that you're actually hitting on it. Do you believe that this particular motion tabled by Mohammed Nsereko is actually more of like a personal initiative or a mandate? Because you're bringing it out in an aspect of, you said among the clauses in there that you're looking at, but you've also talked about the 10-year jail sentence, and the fact that he also mentioned that if you're in public office, you're actually removed and then you're not allowed to stand. So Do you have an issue with that, or what do you have to say about it?
You see, legislation shouldn't be about personal feelings. We all know that Honorable Nsereko has been taking it live on Facebook and the rest, and it's not the first time. We all know the Facebook bloggers that he has been calling out names that have been going against him. So it is just obvious that when he's the one tabling that, he is not objective. There are some things that are glaring. They are glaring mistakes. It shouldn't have been him. It should. You get what I mean? So the thing is that in legislation, you don't legislate about yourself and about a few people. We have had the Computer Misuse Act, 2020. It came in towards 2011 elections. I want people to pay attention to these dates, details to these dates, okay? Now, how many people have been prosecuted successfully under this act? Stella Nyanzi's conviction was quashed. The president that was claimed to have been annoyed never came to the stand, and later he said, I'm told people got annoyed on my behalf. We have a problem with Section 25 of the current act. It's so ambiguous. Much as Mike Kaboneka personally, I have successfully held a conviction under Section 25. But the money I spent, it was a private prosecution, and the trouble I went through to get that conviction is high-end, which I don't think the normal criminal justice system in Uganda can. How many convictions has Uganda gotten under Section 25 of the Computer Misuse Act, or the Computer Misuse Act itself? How many convictions? Any law should be able and easy to implement. That's why we have problems with POMA, and we are saying it should be even repealed.
Yes.
If a law is not easy to implement, then it's a bad law.
Because then the public, people who are seeing from outside the spectrum, are not even able to understand and adapt to it.
Yes. The other thing they introduce is that unsolicited messages. If any person, now I have a problem. Most of the unsolicited messages come from these companies. People who are marketing stuff, things that I don't even know about. They keep coming to your phones. Now, in his amendment, they don't differentiate between a person as an individual. Are we talking about a person as a human? Are we talking about a company as a legal person? It's not there. So we are going to go into, again, another confusion that we are having under the Computer Misuse Act. By the way, there is a constitutional petition on the Computer Misuse Act challenging Section 25 and others, which are ambiguous. Because you see, you don't create a law to protect a certain sector of society. The law should be universally applied. So the thing about this is that when you say any person, unsolicited messages, where does it leave companies? They are the ones busy sending us, we are giving you free this, whatever. Even when there's actually UCC regulations on unsolicited messages. So what is this trying to achieve?
So would you prefer that instead of actually tabling this particular motion, that we should instead have remained with our Computer Misuse Act and instead added clauses in there that actually look at offensive communication?
I think what we need to do is, I hate piecemeal legislation.
Interesting.
Where a person comes up, I was offended because I am an MP, I should, put this up, and then it passes, and then you go and try to, cocoonism, I am waiting, and by the way, this evening, I'm going to write a commentary on this. Okay. And I'll pass it on to Honorable Nsereko. And if when the committee calls me, I'll go and give my views. This is what we are saying about legislation. Internet penetration in this country is only 26%. Those are the issues we should be discussing. Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, when he was the ICT minister, they promised us free internet in Kampala. Is it still there? Those are the issues that I want us to discuss. You can't have a country with 26% internet penetration, and you're busy saying, let us, spend all our energies on curtailing how people to use data. Okay? With the 26% internet penetration, with only 3 million users on social media, I don't understand. We have the 12% tax on internet. 12% tax on internet. We are paying that tax. Moreover, with a 26% penetration. Those are the things that I want Honorable Nsereko and other colleagues to focus on. Why should we be charged 12% tax? There are 92% users on Facebook, but Facebook is closed in this country up to now. But the police still uses Facebook to tell us to keep safe.
I was going to ask, is it really closed?
So if police is using Facebook to tell us to keep safe, will they come after me using Facebook? I think this is the time Honorable Barrio Mosi speaks out and says, let us now open Facebook. Business is dying out. If you ask any boda guy that, are you on internet, he will say no. And say, okay, are you on Facebook? He will say yes. To him, internet, to him, Facebook is internet. So why don't we open Facebook? It's been years. Why aren't we having these debates and going into trivial things that are individualistic in nature that other laws can cure? The issue of children, Article 27 is about privacy of every person, including a child. We have the Children's Act, and there is a whole periphery of laws and regulations about the welfare of a child. We have the Human Rights Enforcement Act, of which I've been involved in the process. I've done the analysis, I've trained this law on various officers. Even some judicial officers don't know about it. Sometimes we would have had to go and explain that, my lord, this is a new law, eh? It says this, please fix my case. That's how bad it is. So, whatever they are trying to bring is not new. We have a whole data and protection, protection and privacy law. It was signed on the 25th of February 2019 by the president. A whole lot to protect data privacy. It's there. So what we need to do is look at the Computer Misuse Act as it is. Solve the ambiguity. Before I leave the amendment, there is another one called malicious and misinformation. Again, the definition of malicious information is not there. The definition of misleading, it's actually misleading and malicious. And you know where this is coming from. If you've been following social media. Okay? When we say that the entire CTV is under siege, what is the effect of that information on the society? What will they do that you require punishment? If people say Michael Aboneka is dead, and then I appear and say, no, I'm not dead, you have resolved it.
Anyway, Michael, this conversation could go on and on. However, when the member of parliament, took a motion to seek leave and to amend the Computer Misuse Act, the government chief whip, that is Mr. Tahebwa, did come out to say he has our full support. What is your take on this? Should he have come out openly to actually say that we are supporting this particular motion?
Of course, I don't know whatever gimmicks they are playing, but he has his right as government chief whip. But I'm cautioning them that let the law take the full process. Consult every Ugandan like you did for Toji Kwatako. How come some laws they just consult a few people and then you hear it was passed? So the same energy that you used, and I think for me it is time. We also have our issues with the current Computer Misuse Act. Perhaps let's take this time to look at the entire law, either overhaul it, repeal the entire thing, or create something new. I want something, for example, we have problems. Did you know under the Regulation of Interception Act that someone can intercept your parcel in your box number and then they later come and tell you? That's vague. There are challenges. Did you know that under the Data and Protection Privacy, if anyone commits an offense of unlawfully giving your information, they are liable to 2.4 million shillings. A company can pay that in advance. For me, those are the issues. So beyond just these, shows and what have you, can we sit down? And some of us do research in this country. We don't just speak out of excitement. I have done a whole research, and we are doing with colleagues on the data privacy laws in this country and what needs to be done. We have all this information. Parliament has a whole, research department and whatever, and they are paid money. For us, we are here volunteering information. So I want a whole thorough consultation, if at all they want this to pass. We don't want these things where you wake up and the thing has been passed. Because you see, participatory democracy is not just about us voting there. It's about us throughout the entire system. Honorable Nsereko is legislating for who? Is legislating for the people of Uganda, not even just Kampala Central. So the people of Uganda must also have their voice heard in the bill.
In regard to that issue.
They must have their issues heard in the Lubowa hospital. They must have their issues. You get what I mean?
Yes.
So we can't just be there and saying, this is our thing. You gave us power to make laws, but you make laws for who and for whom?
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for being a part of this conversation. I do hope that the viewer listening out there was able to pick a thing or two. And at the end of the day, what I've actually picked from you is that it's very important that even as we, plan to pass laws, as we plan to table bills, it is very important that even your constituents and the people at large do have a say in regard to that particular issue.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. And that winds up the conversation that I had for you this morning on the Twitter Jabs. However, stay tuned because I will be cooking something interesting in the kitchen, and that is called chicken pane. I kid you not. Well, guess what? Napoleon actually did travel all the way to Egypt, and he wanted to have chicken with bread, but because they did not have it, they had to somehow come up with concoctions, and that is how actually chicken pane came into existence. Well, stay tuned because we do have an amazing show still lined up for you. Good morning and don't blink.